Hi, it's Steve Riley. Welcome to today's episode of Great Practice, Great Life. And today we are blessed to be here with our good friend and a big supporter of the Atticus community, Brother Curtis. So, Brother Curtis, welcome to the episode. Welcome once again.
Thank you, Steve. My pleasure to be here.
It's great to have you here because you bring such unique perspective to life, to our world. And one of the things that you said right before I hit the record button is you were talking about what it's like to be a monk from the perspective that you're not a competitor. Your monks do not perceive themselves as competitors. They do not perceive themselves as, well, I'm going to let you answer the question. So will that be a sufficient question for you to kind of go off on with that?
Well, I'll give it a try, Steve, and you decide. Well, one of the qualities, one of the charisms down through the centuries of monasticism is that monasteries are sanctuaries. That is, they're safe places, and uh, and that's for more than one reason. Um, but I think it's largely informed by the monks themselves. And I think one of the qualities of monasticism is that we're not competitors. So we earn no salary. There's no such thing as a, a bigger number of clientele for whom we're searching. We're simply available to companion people along the way. Uh, and it's a great gift to be able to welcome people into a place that is safe, that that they will find safe. We very much hope that. And so I say, in the context in which you've given me this invitation, Steve, to be with the Atticus community, I hope that I can embody a kind of welcome, safety for who and where and what people are, is credible and welcomed, and it matters, and it's full of possibility.
One of the premises that we work with in our community that sometimes lawyers, their team members, they don't grow not because of lack of intellectual capabilities, but the ceilings that hit them, that they hit up against are emotional ceilings. And probably one of the biggest things that people deal with are fear and anxiety, like as a common experience, fear and anxiety, especially in a high stake profession like the law. But I don't think we're unique to that. I think, fear and anxiety is everywhere. And these particular emotions are so prevalent. And I want to talk to you just for a little bit today about fear and anxiety, like exploring what it is, getting your perspective, getting your counsel on it, getting your wisdom on it, helping distinguish between fear and anxiety, helping people understand how it influences them to the extent that you feel comfortable talking about that. Is that something you're up for today that you'd be willing to
Gladly, gladly, Steve. Gladly, Steve.
So let's hit it pretty hard. Can you distinguish for me, from your perspective, the difference between fear and anxiety?
I think they're cousins, so they're related. But I think um, I would say anxiety is much more diffuse, and it's imprecise, kind of a vague sense of apprehension. It's something called free floating anxiety because it's just kind of out there. And if someone's feeling anxious, if you were to ask them, "So what are you anxious about?" They may actually even have to pause for a moment and say, "Well, it's actually such and such and such and such." Whereas fear is much more an emotional response to something that is real and known and immediate and nameable. I think that fear can cause anxiety. Anxiety can cause fear. I think when you're in a moment feeling overwhelmed and unsafe, apprehensive, I think the difference between the two is immaterial.
Do you think the development and the extending of that trust enhances or builds resilience as a defense to ongoing fear and anxiety? The ability to learn and extend trust are the flip side of that, to extend vulnerability with the hope of trust from another human being is the core for building resilience in the face of fear and anxiety?
May I ask, what do you think?
You always do that to me.
Well,
I don't
what do
know.
you
I'm
think?
I'm listening to what you're saying, and I see that in the face of fear or anxiety, you need courage, the ability to act in the face of it. But to take a risk where someone else is helping you take the risk, whether it's a friend, over a cup of coffee or a professional, that the extending of trust opens up vulnerability. And then the acceptance of it builds a resilience, like a framework, like a bridge. So, as you and I have developed our relationship, uh, predominantly virtually, uh, each time I talk to you, I feel a greater level of trust. And as that trust grows, I have a greater level of resilience or faith in our relationship. And so as I'm listening to you, I'm questioning that may be the interesting antidote for fear and anxiety in not all, but some situations, may be greater exposure to vulnerability, greater investment into trust to actually develop some emotional resiliency in the face of anxiety and fear. Does that make any sense to you?
I'll respond to you. It makes sense to you, I think, which is beautiful to hear you say and claim. And yes, I love your word, resilience. It sounds like it's an antidote to anxiety. Um, because resilience, just like anxiety can be free floating, I think resilience can be free flowing. I think it will just flow into other areas of life. I think not just specifically related to whatever it is that we may have been talking about, to a soulmate, but I think it will flow into other aspects of our life. I think, I mean, this is picking up in your word resilience. I love the word. I don't know if it's the single most fear. It's a huge fear for people that they will be exposed, that they will be outed, that who they are, what they are, actually the inner workings of their life, their history, whatever, will become known. Huge fear for a lot of people, huge fear. If you only knew. And it doesn't matter if you have a success, this person would be saying under their breath, if you only knew, if you only knew. Give them a gold star if you only knew. If they fail, they would say, ooh, I deserve this. It's a huge issue. It could be a shaming issue of what if people really knew. I think if we flip that coin, I would say an innate need, it's one of our greatest needs in life, is to be known. The greatest fear can be that we would be known. And the greatest need, the greatest craving would be that we be known. I think that inside of those two circles is, uh, is the way to life. And I don't think we can claim that alone. I think we need help with that. I think that that's where we need someone with whom we can open our heart, who will hear the truth about ourselves. When we may give permission to keep asking questions, like say more, say more. Can you say more? Can you go deeper than that? And to bring what is in the deep recesses of our life into the light. And to stay there with us, not to pass out, not to say, forget it, you're hopeless, you're not to confirm our worst thoughts, but to affirm our place in life and to treat us with a kind of dignity that we simply cannot manifest for ourselves in and of ourselves.